Oh, right. I think we got this all sorted now. Hopefully, if anyone is out there, please feel free to chime in. Looks like right now, I think our viewership is at like one. So, welcome, single person. Nice time. Hey. Yeah, so we're back on track. Sorry about the wait. Hopefully, more people will file in. Yeah, we're getting more in there. All right, cool. So yeah, the chat is back up and running. I think they had some password changes in there that I had not implemented since my last stream. So yeah, so here we go. Round two. Welcome, welcome, interested folk. Yeah, all right. So how's everybody doing? We're getting back on this guy, the never-ending sculpt. Mostly because I just have not had the time to pour into it outside of these streams. So that's why this is such a such a long process. So anyone out there who's like, "Oh my god, this again," sorry. I will do better. As it seems I'll have a bit more free time right now on my hands. I'm probably going to try to really do more work on this outside of the stream. But at least this way, for those interested, you get to see its progress from one stream to the next. All right, we're getting more people in here. Cool. Surprising amount on Facebook, actually. It's different. Anyway, welcome everybody. Sorry for the delayed hiccup. For those just joining, started a little later due to technical difficulties. But here we are, back on track. So I'm just going to get some tunes going for myself. And get this sculpt going, getting a groove. Get this set up. Don't want to run any copyrighted stuff online. There we go. Okay. All right. All right, guys, ladies and gentlemen, if anyone has any questions, feel free to fire away. I'll do my best to explain, I guess, my process and thinking about what I'm working on. I was looking at this recently, earlier today, and looking at the pause, and was just thinking, I don't know, this looks like self-touch, if you know what I'm talking about. If you ever heard that, it's kind of like a psychological term for when someone's insecure or someone is nervous, they'll touch themselves, so like their hands. So they'll often hold their own hand or put their hands together, or even just kind of, touch their body in some way that they have a completely kind of recursive, their hands aren't free, their hands aren't really in this more neutral pose. They're like always like close to themselves or touching themselves. Anyway, so I was thinking about that when I saw this, and I was like, it looks, I don't know, it's kind of cute, but it's also kind of insecure, and I kind of want Mufasa to have a bit more of that, dramatic presence. So I think I might bring his paws back to their more neutral state. I'm also, it was kind of going back and forth between whether I wanted him kind of like coming to lay down, because it's sort of like a more intimate coming to speak with your son versus standing really tall and proud like he was in the original animation. I'm kind of been debating that too recently. I've been thinking, I wonder, what would it look like if, and we'll just do this now, like what if he was up here and his eyeballs didn't go with him. Let's try this. That. My gizmo's getting away from me. All right. And then we do, what is it, Control Shift, and you can select your parts. So select the eyeballs, and those are the only things I want to move. All right, cool. So what if, I'm thinking out loud, what if he was standing tall more like he was in the animation? I mean, that might be cool too. I don't know. It's because he's in God mode, right? So he's like way more powerful in this sense, and just has this other, transcendent quality to him. So part of me is like, maybe it works that he, like in the original animation, he's walking kind of in the clouds and it comes to this really noble stance as he's speaking, looking down on his son. But then, I remember that, and then part of me just loved the idea of like the more intimate moment of like when he was telling his son, when he was telling Simba in the story, look at the stars. There was a moment where they were laying down in the grass. They were playing together after they had a little bit of, after his father gave him a rebuke, essentially, and corrected him in his actions when they went to the elephant graveyard. So they were having this kind of bonding moment, and then they were laying in the grass, and then Simba's on top of him, and they're looking up at the stars. So I feel like maybe that's, I think, when I originally came up with this idea of the pose, that's where it came from, was that kind of, again, having a circular, you have a promise and a payoff. It's always like story movie fundamentals, is you set something up and then you have the payoff at the end. So or like if you've ever seen that advertisement for the story, what is it called? The story work clock book or something. I don't know. They were advertising this a lot for like, it's like it sounds kind of gimmicky, but actually it is kind of helpful too. Is like, think of your story as like a circle, like a clock, right? And you have all these different ideas at different times, and then you kind of want to have sort of somewhat of an echoed balance. So if you have a setup on 3 o'clock, you have your payoff at 9 o'clock. You kind of have these sort of parallel setup and payoffs. Anyway, so that was just again, like me thinking as a big picture kind of guy. So I think that's probably where my brain was originally, was that it would be cool to have this, this familiar posture, this familiar pose that he had in the beginning when he was speaking to his son, and to bring that back, kind of bring it full circle, and have that sort of beautiful visual echo of the first moment when they were having a talk about this kind of same subject, or here he is now embodying the topic that they were talking about. So yeah, I don't know. I keep going back and forth about like, is this pose powerful enough? Is it intimate enough? Is it enough? But maybe I'm just overthinking it, so I'll just keep rolling with this for now. I'm just going to take away the self-touching pause, because then I was going to go the other extreme too, where I was like, well, what if he's like those other lions where you guys have seen them? I'm sure you've seen some photos of any cat, big or small, but it's just, it's particularly charming when a giant man capable crushing lion has his paws kind of doing this, where they're almost like this very funny kind of sophisticated, oh, tell me more, this kind of look of a human kind of almost, leg crossing kind of pose. I think it's always kind of funny, but that would just feel a little too comical, I think, or almost too cute and funny in this case, and it wouldn't feel like it's like, it's story time with Mufasa as opposed to my son, so because essentially here it is an echo back to that moment again in a different way, but I never really even thought about that until right now. This sequence is really an echo of that moment when he's talking to Simba in the beginning, and he's saying, this is another moment of a watershed moment, a rebuke in a sense, kind of like the beginning of their conversation when he was just after he finished rebuking Simba for taking Nala into the elephant graveyard. So anyway, sorry, I'm just rambling here. I'm thinking out loud. But so I guess I've just kind of thought through, why am I doing this? Why am I not doing something else? And here we are. So so all that to say, paws are going to be back in another position. I don't know, maybe actually having one kind of coming over the clouds, almost like he's kind of peering or kind of inching toward Simba, maybe in some way. Maybe that's, I don't know, maybe that's a positive, maybe that's like a win. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, I think it might be nice to have it's not be so symmetrical either, not to have the paws just like a sphinx where they're both like perfectly symmetrical, but having them be more asymmetrical and natural, where it kind of feels like there is material there, like he's interacting with the clouds in the same way as he would with ground, I don't know. I think that kind of works. I think it's kind of cool. Anyway, we got a fair amount of people in here. If anyone has any questions, please feel free. Throw anything out you like. And I think I need to look back at some lion paw references again. I just want to make sure I get the toes right. How's everyone's hump day going? Today's Wednesday, middle of the week. Is anyone out there just happy to be getting over the middle of the week? Anything exciting planned for the weekends? I'm hoping the chat is working because I don't know. I don't see anybody asking anything. I'm just going to write a test here and say, hello out there. Alright, looks like it went out to everyone except on Mixer. For some reason it didn't go to Mixer, but no one's on Mixer right now, so that's fine. Alright, I guess it went out, so I guess you guys are seeing it. Just no one has anything to say. That's cool. Alright, so lion's paws. So I just did a quick Google search, just looking at a bunch of photos. And man, some lion's paws are huge. This is crazy. It's funny how, certain animals, I think we take for granted how big they can and often are in nature. And I think certain lions can be incredibly large. And especially for some reason, ligers, like tigers that have been bred with lions and tigers that have been bred together and make ligers. I think there's only a certain way they can work too. It's like only certain species can only be the male and other species can only be the female for some reason. I think genetically they only work that way for something. But anyway, they're huge. They're like crazy abnormally huge. If you've ever seen a photo of a person standing next to a liger, it's kind of nuts. Actually, let me show you. Excuse me, still getting over pneumonia. It's crazy. Okay, so here is, I'm assuming a woman of average height standing next to a liger. And, or actually, here's another photo of them. Hercules, the liger. This looks fake, but it's real, I assure you. Here's a liger. It's like, look at the head compared to the, I mean, my God, this thing is huge. Or, here you go, like this. Oh, dang it, they tricked you. It looks like it's going to be a big image, and it's a tiny little thumbnail. Here we go. Come on, that one's bigger. Yeah, look at that thing. That's insane. So big. Anyway, most lions aren't that big, but some of them get pretty damn huge, and it's freaky. Or like dolphins. I love dolphins. I'm a huge ocean fan. And dolphins are actually significantly bigger than you might think. They're pretty big when they're out in the wild, full grown. Anyway, sorry, I'm boring some people. I guess some people are checking out. Oh well. Like, no more sculpting. Where's the sculpting? Let's go. All right. Sorry, I have to look up reference though. Don't want it to be wrong. Yeah. All right. I was mostly looking for how that, in the position of like the dew claw. All right. Got it. Cool. Okay, so Lucas is asking on YouTube. He said, I miss how you do those pinched and then hairs. He said, awesome. Thanks for the awesome. He was asking how I did pinched and then hairs. I'm sorry. You might have to clarify your question, Lucas. Are you asking about how I sculpted in the tightness in between the paws here for the toe definition, or are you asking about both about that and then how I did the hairs coming off of the mane? You might have to clarify your question, Lucas, please. But when it comes to just sculpting in like deep cuts like this, it's I have a custom UI here, so I've pulled down the brushes I use most of the time. But this is the /3 brush. It's a great, very simple brush that just does a very deep cut, and I usually bring it down from 70. I actually forgot I had it up there. It's standard when you open it. It's set default is Z intensity is up to like 70, which is pretty strong. And actually it worked okay here, I guess. Maybe a little too deep, but yeah, that's how I do the cuts that look like they're pinched a bit. Then the hairs, it's a combination of things. I think originally I used some of the snake hook brush for that. So you have two different types of snake hooks now, but I think I used snake hook, the original one. I might have used snake hook too, but I think I used snake hook, the first one, to kind of pull them out a bit, and then to do the curls, if anyone's wondering about that. The curls are the twist brush, or spiral, excuse me, the spiral brush. And that's where you can then, you can take some geo. Once you have enough subdivided geometry, you can curl, and you just hold down the brush and it does this beautiful, nice spiral curl kind of look. And you can change its direction by going into the brush palette, twist, and then taking the twist rate here and putting it into the negative to go in the opposite direction. So go from clockwise to counterclockwise. But you go too far. So in other words, I think like 0.2 is good. That's what the standard was in the positive direction. Oops, let me put it back there. Negative 0.2. And then you can get curls going the other way, going counterclockwise. And that's kind of how I'm having it, sort of almost like everything's kind of pulling away or being pushed away from Mufasa, or coming out of him, kind of, just continually pouring out. Man, everyone's calling me when I'm on the stream. It's funny. I don't know if you guys heard any buzzing in my phone. But sorry if you did. Oh, okay. So Lucas was asking about the mane. Yeah, so like I said, the mane was primarily, once I had a mask there, I think I probably started with a standard brush. And once I had drawn out some shapes with a standard brush, and then maybe even done some cuts with the /3 brush to emphasize the strands, then I used the snake hook, and probably was using Dynamesh at the time, I think, too, to kind of get some of these more wild kind of shapes. Yeah, so then just using the snake hook right over here, and you just use that to pull out, your snaky shapes. So here's an example. If this will work. Huh, why is it? Oh, derp. I thought I selected it, but I didn't. That's why, because I was on a standard brush. All right, so here's a snake hook in action. Don't need RGB on. Yep. There you go. And that's how you smooth it out. It's obviously not what I'm going for there, but yeah, gives you some nice strands to mess with. And the cool thing will be when this is actually 3D printed, this will be it'll be both awesome and I think maybe in a sense hell to clean up, because supports will have to be attached to some of these parts, but actually probably to a lot because normally you want hair and things that float like this, like that grow almost like a tree. You want them to grow away from You want them to go toward the bottom, essentially, or toward the top, depending on what kind of printer you're using. But in this case, I'll be using a Formlabs, probably the Form 3 for this. So you wouldn't want to have all the supports coming from this direction, basically attached to the face, so that you have all these strands going out into the open air naturally, like a tree would, like away from the base, because then all the supports would be riddled around the face and it would just be horrible. So in this case, we want no supports on the face, which means that all supports will have to be, this will have to be printed in the Form 2 and 3. They all print, all the Formlabs printers, they print upside down, well, except for their nylon SLS printer. So this will be printed kind of like this, basically, I think. And of course, there'll be different parts here that will interconnect. The different clouds will be different pieces. So, but Mufasa, I think I may actually print him probably something orientation-wise, something like this. It'll be wild. I don't know. It'll be crazy. I don't know. I'll have to figure it out. I could even maybe I might have to section the face from the main off and then just do like a nice little like resin welding with a laser, handheld laser maybe, to attach the face to this. Or I don't know, because I'm thinking about putting, I'm planning to put LEDs inside and having the wall thickness, kind of dictate where the light will pour through more. Obviously thinner areas will have more light pass through. And then thinner areas will have less light passing through. And I want it to kind of look like the way I designed it for the film, which is that a star, like a falling star, shooting star, kind of entered our atmosphere and had this really amazing interaction with the clouds. And it's really obviously the spirit, the soul of Mufasa. And so it uses the clouds as like a shroud to manifest it himself. So the soul is entering into our dimension and sort of using the means of showing himself the way that Simba would recognize and that obviously the audience would understand. So with that idea in mind, I feel like the visual logic would be a star, a burning kind of comet or star inside of all these clouds. Would have a very luminous, glowing, beautiful aura about it. And so that's where that's what I'm just thinking about the design of all this, and where, obviously electronics and everything will be going in the back, will be inserted into areas that will be designed to hold LEDs. So I'll probably have a large tube that will then split into two parts, one for each eye, for two smaller LEDs, I guess, and then a larger LED will be somewhere down in more of the heart, chest region, and a little further back in, to kind of give the overall glow. And then I might even have, and I'm thinking that all that will be more warm, like a very warm yellowish ivory. I think this will all have an ivory color to it as far as the material goes. And then the lighting will be a very warm, almost like candlelight quality of yellow. And then it'll fade color-wise into maybe a more deep blue. Or actually I should say more like probably like a cobalt pale, mixture of cobalt and pale blue, into these further clouds out here. And I might have them even flicker to symbolize like lightning going off inside the clouds. So using the same kind of controls that you use to have a flame flicker on an LED, I'm going to use that to repurpose that to do it to blue, so that it'll look like thunder rumbling kind of, again, to be this awesome example of immense power, but under total constraint and control. Just to, sell that intimidation factor. So anyway, that's the plan. Lucas says, thanks, dude, you rock. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. think one of the challenges is thinking of this like clouds, but also thinking of it as anatomy. And I feel for me, I think it's better to go with a good foundational structure for the anatomy first, and then manipulating it and changing it, instead of just going blobby and trying to make it look like clouds that kind of look like this. I think start with good anatomy first and then manipulate it and deform it. That's the word I was looking for. Deform it to look more cloud-like. It just seems to make more sense, I think, to go that way than the other way, which is just blobby and then try to form it into that. It doesn't really... seems more painful. I mean, I guess in sculpture you do start blobby anyway, but I mean more anatomy based than just amorphous. How's everybody in Twitch land doing? Seems like that's where we got most people at right now. Feel free to share the stream if you like, if you're enjoying what you're seeing. I'm just, I struggle with social media. I struggle in the sense that, I mean, I'm on it a bit, but I'm more so I struggle with just, I got better with self-promotion and just, I don't know, because it's a really love-hate relationship with me in social media at times. I kind of hate social media, but it's a part of the game. I know. I just need to kind of come to terms with it, I guess, and find the right balance. But I guess I actively rebel, against living through my phone when I'm at a concert or at an event. I try to minimally use it, if at all. I don't want to experience things through my phone so much as in real life. In everything. I mean, I have sworn off like all the dating apps, and they just were terrible. I say that, and then I also was like just trying the Facebook thing, and I'm just like, dude, it's so not effective. And you'd think it would be, considering Facebook has all these facial recognition algorithms and whatnot. You'd think, they would easily be able to say, oh, you don't like this face, you like that face, okay, we'll feed you more of that style, and then just sort of like zero in on everything that, because obviously, unfortunately, it starts with the physical, because that's all you can see, and then you read about the person. But anyway, social media is just, I don't know. I know it's not going anywhere, but a part of me almost wishes like it would. I just wish it could all, I don't know, for a time go away, or that there would just be, I don't know, it's almost like a holiday away from social media would be cool. But I know that there's so many people that just live off of it. And I mean, it has brought me business in the past, and it's helped me connect with people that I admire and people I care about. But I don't know. It's just like a double-edged sword, I guess. And for all the funniness and the fun that it brings to life, at the same time, I guess I just don't really relish. Like, I hate taking pictures of. I hate seeing people taking pictures of food. It's not even that I don't like the pictures of the food. It's that people are like, oh, let me show you when I'm about to poop out in an hour. Like, I just think about that. I'm like, dude, I don't care what you're about to ingest. If you're a chef and it's like this incredible work of art, awesome, cool, okay, I can respect that. But if you're just consuming it and it's like not some amazing culinary masterpiece or something really interesting, I'm just like, ugh. I hate it when I'm out somewhere and I see someone being like, pictures of food, like, no. I just don't get it. That's me, man. I know so many people love to do it, and hey, to each their own, but I just laugh at that because it just seems so weird. I don't know, so bizarre. I think before social media, how many people were using a real camera to take pictures of their food while they're at the restaurant having lunch or dinner with their friend or family or whoever? Like, that just didn't happen, and it seems to me so bizarre. I guess because I'm an old school kind of guy. I think back to the 90s and the 80s, and it wasn't like that at all. I never saw someone be like, let me pull out my Polaroid for a second and, this meal looks epic. Yeah, it didn't happen. I don't know. We've just social media has helped create so many bizarre niches and subcategories of randomness out there that I think so many people didn't know existed until, or at least they didn't know they shared the same interests until social media came along and gave every little facet of the universe its own megaphone. Al Ortiz, as someone who had a career of a hard modeler, I'm assuming a hard surface modeler, ZBrush still fascinates me. Good stuff. Thanks, man. Appreciate it. Yeah, this is definitely like epitomizing what ZBrush can do with the whole, your sculpting, like digital clay. This is really one of those pieces, because it's trying to really hone in on a certain look that's not. It's such a weird organic form, sculpting clouds. It's such a weird thing. It's challenging, it's not a skill set that I see many. I really don't know anybody I've ever seen being like, hey, look at all these amazing sculpted clouds I did. And like, I've sculpted a few clouds in the past just for background, but here and there, but nothing to like this extent before. I mean, the film was what forced me to really come to terms with this style and figure it out as fast as I could, which was like 2 weeks, less than 2 weeks. It was stressful. It was exciting, but it was stressful for sure, because I was like, the pressure was just like, oh my god, I don't have much time, and this is such an amazing scene. It means so much to me, as I'm sure it does to so many millions and millions of people. So yeah. Lucas, I know, I feel the same way, haha. But they're useful. Yeah. Lucas, you're funny. Thanks, man. Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. Like, you're right. This is, in a sense, we are in a form of social media right now, and it's amazing that we can do all these things and communicate with people miles away. Exactly. I mean, I've connected with some of my personal creative heroes thanks to Twitter, and I'm not. I mean, I'll retweet a bunch of stuff, and then I'll go on these weird spurts. I'll be on Twitter for a while for like, I don't know, when there's conversations going on, and I try to stay away from all the political stuff, because it just becomes just a scream fest of people who are just, you're an idiot, no, you're an idiot, and then whatever, and it just gets terrible. So I stay away from that because it's just pointless anyway. But when there's good conversations going on about a topic I love or a character or something, especially with a creator that I respect, and so a good example is Twitter's how I got introduced. Really, just kind of cold called. Or cold tweeted Ed Annunziata, who's a famous game designer who created Echo the Dolphin. And as he's known, it's been my dream to kind of make that a feature film in some way, and I would love to direct it. And I'm working on my first short film as really a proof of concept, just so that I can direct something, and I know I have a strong vision for things, and I have a skill set there that I know I was born to do, and so that's what I'm working toward right now. But Echo is what really was like the first thing I think I ever really thought about and thought, I really want this to be something I can help creatively bring to life, because I have a strong sense of direction and vision for it, and it's a way of glorifying it. You know what I mean? Like really epitomizing the look of something and the style and the feel of it, and taking it, adapting it from what it was originally to the medium of film, the medium of visual storytelling, and doing it with just such a high impact, but also really deep emotion, and visually communicating it well. Not, I don't know how else to put it. It's hard to articulate everything, but just having a strong sense of vision for it, I guess. And so anyway, we connected through Twitter, and if it wasn't for Twitter, I would have been able to speak to one of my longest time personal heroes creatively. And in turn, that led to some work that I did with him, and just some nice personal connection, and a nice kind of friendship there. so I kind of, I understand that phrase, never meet your heroes, but because of Twitter and because of other like conventions and whatnot, I've been lucky enough to meet and become friends with people like Ed and heroes like Phil Tippett and people at ILM and onward and so forth. So it's really been it's like, yeah, it's a double-edged sword. Social media is both incredible when we can bring people together who share a love and a passion for things that are positive and that have meant a lot to them and touched them in their lives in some great way, and you're able to communicate with them and thank them for it and even possibly collaborate. That's amazing. I mean, that's the best of us, I guess, and that's the best of technology when it brings people together like that and really kind of brings people who would be, far apart for forever, and then you suddenly have a common ground where you can connect and talk and like a town square, basically. Having that opportunity then it's amazing. So I am thankful for those elements of social media. The internet, social media, it's just like a tool, like anything else. It's not inherently good or bad. It's just how people use it. A hammer can build a house or it can kill somebody, but it's all about who's wielding the tool and what their intentions are with it that cause the effects to be good or bad. So, and all these tools are wielded by humans, and humans are inherently perfect and run the whole spectrum of crazy to incredibly awesome. So, yeah. So here we are. It is what it is. One of the worst phrases ever. And yet we all say it. It's almost like saying nothing because you're stating the obvious of like, it exists. It is what it is. Like, okay. We have to just accept that this is what it is. Gravity. It is what it is. Air. It is what it is. Death. It is what it is. It all happens. It all must be. Love it or hate it. Yeah, I hate that phrase because it just seems to also just sort of be callous. It seems to kind of like nullify or kind of deaden and colden, is that a word? To cool, to reduce the impact of something, or just to kind of brush it under the rug or just dismiss it. It's kind of like, oh well, I don't know. Pet peeve, random thoughts of Daniel. Yes, and there's a little bot by Pixelogic that's chimed in there. If you guys don't know, apparently there's a new version of ZBrush which I have to upgrade to myself. I haven't done it yet, but it's 2020.1.1. So I guess there's a patch there, another patch that fixes some issues that ZBrush 2020.1 has had. Pardon me. Tell you what, man, recuperating from pneumonia is no joke. It's crazy, man. Never had it before. Hope I never have it again. It's horrible. Just amazing how you can just reducing the amount of air you can take in consistently over a long period of time, and then couple that with like coughing a lot, how it can weaken you so much, how you can feel so strong when you can breathe normally, but you just take away the ability to inhale fully, naturally, consistently, and man, it knocks you down a couple levels. It really makes you stop and take stock in your humanity. You're like, damn. I mean, I'm more than well aware that we're all mortal, unlike the idea that the cliche of people say, like, oh, when you're young, you think you're invincible. I never really thought I was invincible. I worked in the ER when I was 18, 19, and 20. So when I was in college, I would see people my own age or younger, would come in pumping their stomachs when they would be like, high on something or drunk off their ass or whatever. So, I saw the real stuff at a very young age. So it really sobered me up quickly, and it also turned me off to alcohol for a long time. I didn't drink until I was 23. And even then it was like a mimosa at a wedding. It wasn't like, let's go crazy. So I really grew to have respect for health and the human body and the fragility and the ephemeralness of our humanity, and how there's no guarantees and we can all go at any time, any age. Saw some pretty heavy stuff. So really changed my outlook early. And so I don't know. The idea of death can be scary because I think all of us are afraid of our consciousness ceasing to exist. I think that's really the fear of it, right? Is thinking, what if I'm not here? I mean, of course, then the other side is the fear. If there's nothing on the other side, then you just cease to be conscious, and that's like going to sleep. That's all it is. But I think it's just an inherent biological kind of, deeply rooted in our DNA element of existing, that all creatures fight for their existence, for their consciousness to continue, to perpetuate. And so there's a sort of fear inherent in that. But death is also just a natural part of life. And that's just how, imagine if no one died and we just kept having kids. Like, talk about overpopulation. If people think it's overpopulated now, imagine if death wasn't a part of the equation. Plus, there's a part of me that's just because I'm always curious and I love learning and I love seeing developments of mankind, technology, art, all that. So I love learning, I love seeing, I love knowing. I always ask why and how ever since I was a kid. That's why I majored in biology, I think, and science and medicine was because I loved answering the questions, the big questions of life, right? And understanding what makes life what it is, I'd always ask why and how. But I think that coming to terms with death it's a big step, I think. And it's one that I think if more people could come to terms with it sooner and have an appreciation for life more and finding purpose and meaning in it, I think the world would be a better place. But it's scary. I understand that. For a lot of people, it's very scary to talk about your humanity and the frailty that we all are. But it's all, like the Lion King showed us very young, a lot of us, I remember it was before Lion King, actually, what first really kind of like, I don't know if it was my pets, like if I had some like toads and frogs, and I was a huge science nerd since I was a kid, so I loved amphibians, for instance, and I would always have some. And I think I learned death through them first. I knew what it was. I knew what death was, but having lost a little toad that I really cared about when I was like 5 or 6 or something, I think that really affected me, and that was my first exposure. But then seeing like great films that really gently yet realistically showed you what death is. Like for me, it was Land Before Time. So when Littlefoot's mom, spoiler alert, Littlefoot's mom dies in front of him. I saw Bambi, but it just didn't, I don't know, I was younger and it was older, and it didn't, and that the shock value really quite wasn't there. It was sad, definitely, but it wasn't like Land Before Time. His mother dies in front of him after she basically died to save his life. It's like pretty heavy. It's pretty epic. And man, that would make an amazing live action remake. Oh man, if they did it shot for shot and kept the same voice actors, kept the same audio. Don't touch that, because I feel like it always just never reaches the heights of the original. If they would just do that, oh my god, that would be awesome. That'd be so epic to see. But because the dino fights and the scale of everything is just so dramatic and beautiful. And the music, oh my god, that soundtrack. If you haven't heard the Land Before Time soundtrack, it's gorgeous. It is deeply moving, really powerful, beautiful music, incredible. Anyway, Don Bluth just hit it out of the park with Spielberg and all the artists that worked on it. So it's a great story. Anyway, that death scene of Littlefoot's mom is just so powerful, because she was also, they portrayed her so beautifully, like that mother, the mother figure, just the idea and the way her mind worked and the way she spoke. She spoke with such eloquence and gentleness and femininity, and wisdom. Like there was a lot, and that's the thing you don't see as much in certain aspects. I mean, I guess there's somewhat classically in Disney, there's that the old wise character, right? Mufasa had that same quality, as did his queen. Nira, was that her name? Nira? I can't remember what was the name of the female. What was the name of his queen? Anyway, Simba's mom. But I mean, it was so epitomizing Land Before Time, the strength and the wisdom and the love of a mother, and then her sacrificing her life for her son, and she dies right in front of him, and then he's calling out to her. He's like, "Mother, mother," and they just cut with lightning and the thunder and the rain coming down, and this really sad, just, whew, man, that hit me hard as a kid. I remember, but I understood. I mean, it was shocking and yet not like a total slap to the face. It was just like, wow, that's heavy. That's what happens. This can happen. Like, this is life and death. This is a beautiful portrayal of what it can be. And I was like, wow, that's heavy. But yeah, I remember just being exposed to that as a kid, and that's really, I mean, such an elegant, gentle way of teaching children of life and death. I mean, it's powerful. It'll definitely make kids cry if they get it, but at the same time, it's such a safe and gentle way for them to learn. Such a beautiful way, in a sense. These stories have these kind of biblical qualities to them, really. They have these kind of biblical lessons and epic scale. I think that's what makes them so endearing and so timeless, is that they have that kind of tremendous scale, yet this deeply intimate, personal journey of a character experiencing life. And they're often children, like American Tail, another amazing Don Bluth film that's very powerful. Or Secret of Nim. I remember that's where I first learned about the word pneumonia. Is that Mrs. Brisby is going out to find medicine, which is essentially penicillin or antibiotic of some type, I guess, to help. I think what was her son's name? Timmy? Timothy? Timmy? I don't know, something like that. And yeah, he's laying up in bed, like I was, and having a hard time breathing. And I just remember the kids are asking her what's wrong with him, and she says he has pneumonia, or the doctor said he has pneumonia, and then they repeat it, pneumonia. They don't know. But again, there was like another example of like, kids can die, kids can get sick. This is a reality of life. It's pretty heavy stuff. It's really heavy, and it's in a children's movie. And again, this was in an era too where I remember like one of the male, I guess he's a rat, from the Rats of Nim. When he meets Mrs. Brisby, they kind of have a little thing for each other. You can tell, or he likes her anyway. And later on, when he's fighting, there's an evil rat, essentially. You can tell he's the evil bad guy because he's got that. He's just such a cliched evil character. But they're fighting, and there's certain else. It's before they're fighting, but there's blood. Like, they slash each other. There's blood in there, and there's real combat. And I remember. What was his name? What was that? The male rat's character's name? He swears. I remember he's like, "Damn!" And he yells a couple things, and I just remember this was like in an era. I think it was before Temple of Doom, Indiana Jones, because that's the movie that introduced PG-13 to the industry. So prior to whatever year that was, 87, I forget, what was it, 89? Whenever Temple of Doom came out. I think, if I'm not mistaken, Secret of Nim was before that. So there was all these things that crept into kids, quote unquote, kids movies or family films that were just completely, by today's standards, or at least maybe like the early 2000s standards, was not appropriate for a PG rating. There would be something that should be PG-13 or R in some cases, So there was this huge, just gray area for films. And I don't know, things were just different, man. I remember even like, I was going through Twitter recently, and someone had a page that they had all these 90s commercials and openings to cartoons from the 90s, and just kind of going through nostalgic stuff. And there's a whole bunch of garbage in there. There's total trash. And then there's stuff that's really great, stuff that, I mean, of course it's personal opinion, but things that are high quality, that were made very well. And things like Disney's work and the Animaniacs and video games like Sega's original stuff. I think I found that through because I saw the Sonic the Hedgehog movie recently, and it's actually pretty good, I would say. It's not perfect. I mean, I think I think if they make a sequel, it actually will be even better, because if they go more into that world of just Sonic's world and his characters, which I think what most fans would like to see, is just, you know, his world exemplified, kind of like what they introduced in the very beginning of the movie. Kind of stay within that world and just keep people out, except for Robotnik. That would be more ideal. But anyway, I was going through all these Twitter feeds and these commercials, and what did I see in there? Because I'm losing train of thought, because I'm trying to figure out some of these shapes. Anyway, the 90s, man, there was a lot of just a lot of gray area. Oh yeah, so the advertisements. So I remember they were advertising in the, I guess, the late 80s for when Aliens, the second Alien movie, when Aliens came out. They were advertising toys for kids, like action figures and, you know, stuff like G.I. Joe kind of characters, like really, and that's a rated R movie. So like they know kids are sneaking in to see that because it's like a badass, awesome action movie, you know. And I'm pretty sure they did the same thing with Terminator 2. Again, a very hard R and some pretty graphic violence. I love those movies, man. Like, those are in my top 10 for sure. Terminator 2 and Aliens. But yeah, in Predator, you know, all those are they're all films that are rated R, and had tons of toys marketed totally to children. I think it's hilarious. Like, there was a certain level of lack of censorship that was great, and we weren't nerfing the world for our kids and protecting their fragile little minds. I mean, it's like, you know, part of it's like, you know, you nature versus nurture kind of stuff. You treat your kids like they're porcelain glass, they're gonna think they are, and they're gonna act like they are. But if you give them a little bit of exposure to some harder stuff, obviously you still don't expose them to things that are insane or that could scar them traumatically. But, you know, I think like the Don Bluth films were, you know, or Disney's, were great examples of introducing kids to really powerful concepts without scarring them for life, without really damaging them mentally. But yeah, there was just such a difference in the 90s then from now. And I feel like there's a certain rebellion against the ultra cautious mentality now, the helicopter parenting and all that. There's definitely like a conscious, you know, amount of people out there that are pushing against that for sure. And, you know, to each their own for parenting. But I'm definitely one to advocate for, you know, giving kids a similar childhood to what I had, which I think serviced me well. And, you know, it's a combination of the art that you know, the media, the art that your kids are exposed to, and the parenting that happens at home. And I think I just had a great marriage of both in my life. I have very loving, great parents who are intellectual and compassionate, wise people who taught me very well, taught me how to think, not what to think necessarily. I mean, of course, they'd advise me on their opinions of things and say, this is true, this is not, this is what we think. But they would more critically than anything, they taught me how to think, or to think, I guess you should say, to be a critical thinker and to question and to seek out answers and to work hard and all that good stuff. I think stuff that many parents should teach their kids, but sadly don't. So yeah, I think good parents are, of course, crucial to a good society. It's fundamental, really. You create good people. Hopefully they reproduce and have good children, or teach their children to be good people. And you just have a perpetual cycle right there, you know. But that requires good fathers, guys to stay at home. I mean, to stay, you know, in the home, not at home. I mean, they should be at home at some point too, but you know what I mean. You need to have a family unit. I think that's crucial for healthy kids. Just have loving parents. Anyway, random ramblings of Daniel. All right. Lucas, sorry, I missed what was your thing? Lucas was saying goodbye. Well, when you see this later on, Lucas, I'm sorry I missed your farewell, but thank you for the kind words, sir. And please enjoy the rest of the stream when you come back to it, as you have stated you will. Often I'll go into polyframe mode, but just have the color on. And there's little buttons here you can turn on the actual poly frame so you can see your mesh, which defines your shape. Or you can turn off that because it looks so dirty when you look away. It's just, you know, excuse me, it clouds your understanding of the silhouette in some ways when you have all this kind of complexity of lines from your polygon mesh. So I turn off the mesh but leave on the color and turn on transparency down here so that I can see through and yet understand where my forms are intersecting with each other and interacting. So that's why you'll see me often have these random colors pop on. Then if I just alt-click another one, you can see the same thing here, different color, different polygroup is what the colors symbolize, so that these objects can be differentiated between each other, and also just then lets me see where they're intersecting and decide how I want to proceed with deforming the shapes. And sometimes regular smooth is just not smooth enough. It's not strong enough. So we go to your brush palette, like I just did. Go to the smooth folder and then select smooth stronger. And sometimes this can be too strong, so I might want to bring it down a little bit. And now it just helps you get those forms smoothed out so they can be deformed a little nicer. How are we doing out there? Got a lot of people in Twitch land, some on YouTube, and a few on Facebook. Yeah, it's funny, Facebook. I don't really ever think about watching live streams on Facebook typically. But then again, I don't really watch a lot of live streams, period, I guess. I'm usually listening to an audiobook or a podcast or an interview or random medical videos on new tech or updates on the coronavirus. You know, I'm all over the place. I love learning, so my information set that I pour into my brain is very eclectic. And sometimes you'll get this weird kind of deformities in your meshes as well. And when I see this kind of stuff, I often like just to get rid of it because it can just create complications down the road for modeling and sculpting. So when things get this whacked, like this kind of weird, see this weird geo right here, I just delete it and then close holes and move on if I'm working on a, something this free form. So the way we do that is you hold your Control Shift. I'm gonna go with my lasso tool here. Select that area out, and that cuts straight through. It's like a laser. It just goes straight through everything. So you got to make sure that you rotate and then isolate again all that you're trying to focus on, and not accidentally delete something like way off in the background that's connected to the same mesh, because I've done that before, and then you go down the road sculpting for hours and then look back and be like, oh shit, I just I just deleted like a whole bunch of polys back there. So then you got to go back down your history brush here, back down your history, or fix the geo if you can't go back, or you just don't, whatever, or find an older version, an older iteration of your file, and then that can just be hell, or have to stitch it back together. There's a whole bunch of different ways you can fix that, but it's never pretty, and it's always miserable. So whenever you're in ZBrush and you're like doing this kind of stuff, make sure you look directly behind your camera view, like directly behind this, to make sure you haven't accidentally selected something to be deleted that shouldn't be. Alright, so now we can see here where it's all kind of pinching together. And this probably could be really kind of mashed back into place a bit. Maybe not, I don't know. But this is just kind of fugly now, so I'm just gonna, this was like a little bit of cancer in the mesh. Just gonna cut this sucker out. Alright, good enough. And invert selection. Now we see there's a little tiny group right there, and we do this delete hidden. Boom, gone. Let me smooth this out a little bit. Say close holes. Boop. Smooth out, and voila. That purple group is where the problem was. Still, it can do that where it'll spike out when you smooth it. So just do the same thing again. Chop that out. Delete hidden, close holes, smooth, and nice. It's a little discolored because I think I have a different color selected here. But easy fix. Do this. Boom. All the same color. But yeah, I'll dying to remesh this, or remesh this here sooner than later. Yeah, because there's all these like pockets and things that got bunched up together as I just manipulated these things and mashed them around. Yeah, there's all kinds of weird folds over here. I'm sure if I select this, for instance, you'll probably see a whole bunch of weird. Oh, no, actually not. Yeah, it's actually not bad. I thought it was going to be all folded in on itself, because whenever you see these tight kind of folds like that, it's like something got flattened together and kind of got pancaked, and then you have all these like individual like strands of polygons that just get smashed together, and you have, they're useless. They're wasting processing power, and they're just a waste of polys. But we're good. All right. So a part of me, this whole area I think looks more like rocks. I need to fix this, but a part of me likes the idea of how this wraps around. So even when you're viewing it from the side, it all kind of brings the eye down to Mufasa. But right now from the front, these giant curls are just, ugh, I don't know. It just looks weird. Obviously, then this is working better. The right here, screen right, but I think, this is a fun idea, but I don't know that it's quite working back there and at that scale. So I think this whole wall of clouds is going to be touched up for sure. I think this group is working okay. I feel like it always has to be, pushed around a little bit more and kind of separated it a bit. It'll stand out a little bit more, kind of flow better out into this part. So that's what I'm going to work on for a little bit. Oh, a bunch of questions. Sorry, people. Let me get to you guys. Sorry, I was just totally in my zone. Because there was like nothing for a long time. Let's see. Dice Dip says, "Hey, just got here and was wondering how long the stream has been going. Did you start modeling it all from scratch when the stream started?" Haha. Dice Dip, no. Also, do you get a lot of wrist pain while sculpting? No. No. I started this a long time ago. I actually started this last year, but in a sense. So I was working on the Lion King 2019 movie. It was brought in on the last month of production. And for one of the most important scenes in the film, so that's why I was shocked I even got to be part of the film, because I thought for sure it was all taken care of. Long story short, I did a whole bunch of sculpting, and it's very similar to this because I did a concept sculpt like this. I started this at home on my own to like kind of get out ideas for what I wanted to do for the basically to sculpt a container for Houdini simulations to be done so that the clouds would have this form, right? So and that was such a weird request. I mean, I understood it, of course, but it was a weird request, and like sculpt clouds but make them look like an animal, but not too much like an animal, but not too much like clouds. And so it was all this weird kind of back and forth and the struggle. And granted, if I would have finished even in half the time that I did, I don't think it wouldn't have mattered, because of this level of complexity and the amount of time they need to simulate. And then also they said, my art director said, hey, if you want to re-storyboard the scene, or offer them options. Sorry, I'm just moving some stuff out of the way here. They're totally open to that. They're totally open to seeing what you got. So I was like, hell yeah. I mean, I got ideas. So long story shorter, too late. I gave them a whole bunch of near photoreal storyboards of this whole sequence. I did a whole bunch of work in Photoshop, took the shots they already had designed, put it at night, had this whole epic scene of Simba hearing his name being called and looking up and seeing this huge cloud line, and then the stars and the nebulas above that cloud line that's over the lake that he's looking at. And then you see shooting stars in the background, and then as he hears his name being echoed again, you see this one shooting star, this one star that's brighter than all the rest, getting brighter and brighter and brighter, and you realize it's coming toward the camera, like coming toward us. And as it's zooming down and arcing right into our atmosphere, it kind of has this, you see this one little storm front over the lake, far across the other side of the lake, and there's lightning and thunder going off in there, and it kind of has this almost magnetic, covalent chemical kind of reaction to this shooting star entering this storm system. And so it kind of like boils up, and electricity, and this basically the soul of Mufasa is like entering into these clouds, and it just uses the clouds as a form of manifesting himself. So I also wanted to bridge the gap that the cartoon always had, which was, he said, Simba, look at the stars. The dead kings of the past are in those stars. And if you were feeling lonely, I will be too, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, okay, so the stars, nothing about clouds. And then in the cartoon, he shows up in clouds with only negative space having stars sort of seen through it, almost like a weird kind of constellation thing, but not, because he's obviously clouds and the stars are a bazillion miles away. So I always thought there's a weird kind of lack of logical flow here artistically that they didn't connect. So I figured let's fix that and have a really powerful scene. So this shooting star is really the soul of Mufasa, kind of entering from beyond, from heaven into our atmosphere and into our dimension, and then using the clouds to manifest himself in this form. And I was thinking of the same thing, like this form that, when I was saying the same thing, his body shape here is almost the same pose, I guess, as when he was laying down with Simba, telling him originally about the dead kings of the past. And so I wanted kind of this beautiful payoff, this echo of things, where that was a watershed moment for Simba and understanding their perception of life and death and how it works. And then now here is this kind of coming back where he had just, and in that earlier moment, Mufasa had disciplined Simba by rebuking him by what he did with taking Nala somewhere dangerous. And then they had this kind of bonding moment where Simba had a re-understanding of his father's direction and authority and advice. And so now it's the same kind of thing echoed again, but as an adult, where, Simba had been leading this hedonistic life. And so, like a loving father does, like the biblical, account of God, how a loving father disciplines his children, right? If you don't care about your kids, you let them run rampant and just run amok, and then they become criminals, or they just become terrible people, hedonistic, selfish, unconcerned with the cares or needs of others, and they just focus. They become selfish. That's human nature, right? You don't have to teach a kid to any animal, anything living. You don't have to teach it to self-preserve. That's a natural part of our DNA, is to self-preserve, and self-preservation means I eat first. I do this first. Me, my body, right? So that's a natural part of existing. That's biology. But you have to teach kindness, or you should teach, sharing and giving, all that. So anyway, all that's wrapped up in the idea of a loving father coming to instruct his son to make better choices, obviously, to make the right choice here and returning to be king. And so this immense wisdom and power and strength, I wanted to all be contained and imbued in this glorified, beautiful moment of a father speaking with his son. And so I designed it where you see the father, the soul. There's this other beautiful kind of echo of the soul of the father being reflected into the windows of the soul, the eyes of Simba looking at his father. And we really get in tight, and it's one eye as they're saying goodbye, and Simba's asking him not to leave and almost crying. And I found this really emotional shot of an eye of a lion. And then I composited in all these clouds and this really crazy photoshopped, beautiful, like, I called it my, what were those Trapper Keeper folders from back in the 80s or like the early 90s. And they were like, oh, it's, what was her name? Lisa something, I think. I don't remember. It was like rainbows and there was all these like dolphins and space and just like trippy, acid trippy, like super cute, beautiful, like over the top. I mean, I didn't go that far, but I said this. Lisa Frank, that was her name. I jokingly said to my art director, my friend Misha, I was like, this is my Lisa Frank moment, my Lisa Frank shot. Because there was just a very slight, like coronal flares. So that's like a rainbow kind of colored flare that kind of like pulls out from certain lights under anamorphic lenses and other lenses. It's really beautiful. I mean, I didn't go over saccharine, super sweet with it, but I definitely, I made it a glorified moment, like the epitome of a realistic version of when Mufasa came to Simba. So anyway, so that's where this is where the sculpt all began. That's where it all kind of, its gestation was rooted in. So to answer Dice Dip's question, I started this a long time ago, and I've been working on this on and off, mostly only during the 2 hours I stream, because I have had a full-time job for a while now, in the contract that has just basically expired. So I'll have more time to pour into this as I look for another gig. But so yeah, this has been a long time on and off, and mostly off, unfortunately, because I've just been busy surviving and doing other projects. But I'm trying to put more time into this because I do want to give this as a gift to John Favreau and Mishi McKeag, my art director and friend. I want to 3D print this and put LEDs inside and make it a badass, gorgeous statue that they can proudly display on their mantle or desk or throw away if they don't want it. But hopefully they would enjoy this enough to keep it somewhere nicely displayed. So that's the history of this. So let me run down through the rest of these questions here. Sorry for everyone else who's already heard this like a million times. Sorry. I don't get a lot of wrist pain, by the way, sculpting now. I have yet to have any tendonitis, thank God. I've had it in the past a little bit when I get really intense and go for like crazy marathons where projects have to get done in like the last 24 hours and you're just doing nothing but like, days on end to sculpting. But that's abuse of your body, so of course you're going to get some pain. ZBrush Princess says, oh, these types of mistakes just make my stomach turn. Oh, I guess you're referring to when those weird polygon things. Feel sad, man. ZBrush Princess, hilarious, that emoji, it's great. Love the clouds. Are you gonna use opacity for the clouds when you texture them? I'm probably not going to texture them because this is meant to be a 3D print, so I'm not gonna I could do a cool render of this, I guess, as I did for the storyboards. I did a rendering of a version of this that I did at MPC, and I did a bunch of renderings, and then I did a ton of Photoshop work on top of it. But I guess I could do that just for shits and giggles. But that's not a priority. But I could probably do a nice render just to kind of sell it. Maybe bring it into Keyshot and do a really fast photoreal kind of render of what it will probably look like when it's printed. So yeah, that could be an option. ZBrush Princess cried in the Lion King movie. Yeah. Especially the original, man. That was a classic. Eagle Top Gaming. did not want to interrupt you. Talked about confronting your humanity and coming to terms with death of the child. Yes, you didn't want to interrupt. That's fine. You can interrupt if you want. I mean, you know, feel free to ask anything. That's fine. Was there a question there, though? I don't know. Let's see. Streetwise, are you going to 3D print this at home? Yes, I shall. And then ZBrush Princess says, looking pretty awesome, man. Thank you, ZBrush Princess. I appreciate it. You have an awesome name. An awesome username. ZBrush Princess. That's a gold name, man. Like you're like the lucky one to get that. I'm sure there's a bunch of other female ZBrush artists who are like, damn, some girl got this instead of me. Assuming you're a girl with the name Princess, I would assume so. I guess part of me thinking about this is just to expedite this process. Maybe I should just focus on one piece after another. But that's the thing. It's like they all kind of interact with each other. And as I look at one and then I see another one that's like, oh, that should change. I just kind of bounce around. And I don't know if that's elongating this process, you know, and I'm just drawing this out too long because of that. But, you know, I mean, we're still getting a good turnout here. People are still showing up to watch. So, you know, I'm assuming it's probably not all repeat customers, repeat watchers. But I just hope it's not boring for people. But this definitely gets me in the zone. I mean, this definitely gets me in kind of a zen kind of area after a while. And I almost am sad to stop. But it's also the time slot. You know, I've needed to get my sleep as I've been recovering from pneumonia. Sorry, my dog was just a little whiny. Hey, buddy. It's okay. I have a corgi down here who's like, pay attention to me. But he's like an attention whore. He wants all the loves and attention all the time. Someone else comes in and they give me a high five or a hug or even just motion toward me quickly, he kind of freaks out and he barks. He doesn't attack them or anything. He's just like, no, you don't touch him. That's my human. He's mine. You can't touch him. He's just, he's an obnoxious little guy who I love dearly. But I think it was just too much of him and me, he and I, whatever. Him and me when when I first got him. And because we were just it was just the two of us. He kind of got a bit possessive of me and thinking that. So funny story. I was dating this lovely girl and lovely lady. When Ein is my dog based off of Cowboy Bebop's corgi, Einstein. Yes, I'm a nerd. He was probably like 5 or 6, I think. So this was about. Maybe he was younger. He had to be less than that. Yeah, because I've been here for 6 years now in LA. And no, so he must have been like 2. Yeah. Yeah, man, he must have been like 2 or 3. Anyway, he was pretty young. And he would always kind of just like want to get in between us whenever we would kiss, you know, or to be sitting down on the couch or whatever and put on a show. And we'd lean over and just kiss or make out a little bit. He would always want to get between us and bark and lick her and just like kind of be like, I called him my corgi chastity belt. Like he'd always try to get between us or lay on my lap or her lap and just be like, no, you two cannot, no. Just so I put him in his crate. I started putting him in his crate whenever he would do this, you know, and just be like, no. And so then I put a little towel over the front of his crate so he was directed toward us, so he couldn't see us. All right. And we would have the TV on and we wouldn't be making any audible noises at all. But if we lean in, we just start to lean toward each other just to give each other a little peck on the cheek, he would start freaking out and barking. And he knew, like he somehow, I mean, if we were like emitting endorphins or something or some sort of pheromones were coming on, I don't know what, man, but he was detecting something that was not humanly perceptible. So he would just go out. He would just go at it. He'd be like, no, you know. To start barking. And so anyway, Einstein is quite a character. He is a hilarious corgi who thinks the world is all about him. And he does have his own Instagram that I'm very bad at keeping updated with photos because as I said earlier in the stream, I'm not the biggest fan of social media. I kind of actually sort of have a love-hate. I sort of hate it, and I do love it, but I mean, I have a very love-hate relationship with it. So I'm not the best at keeping up with his Instagram because it's not really a gigantic priority. But if you wanted to follow him, it's Ein, like EIN, .stagram, STRAGRAM. No, STAGRAM. Sorry, I spelled that. Like Instagram, Instagram, Ein.stagram. That's his account for my crazy corgi. Anyway, all right, man. Wow, questions are pouring in now. Let's see, what do we have? Who is asking what? Streetwise is asking what printer do I have? I have 4. I have a MakerBot Replicator 2. I have a Form 2, a Form 3, and an Ultimaker 3 extended. Currently on long-term loan. But this will be printed on the Form 3. And for the record, the Form 3 is the best printer ever so far. At least desktop and by Formlabs, but desktop especially. I mean, it crushes everything else. It's awesome. Streetwise, ZBrush Princess really loves ZBrush. I would figure, and yeah, she's a girl. All right, cool. What else? But her brother made that account. Let's see. Oh, thanks for the kind wishes, ZBrush Princess. She's wishing me a healthy recovery. Thank you. Yes, corgis are the cutest. You are right. Cool. Yeah. All right. So yeah, I'll just type in. I think this is correct. I believe that's his Instagram, if I'm not mistaken. So you'll probably see, and his links to mine. So. And then mine, if anyone wants to know. If you want to follow me on there, that'd be awesome. I do post on there a lot more than almost anywhere else. Although I do post a lot of memes on my Facebook. That's pretty much all it is for me now, that and like messengers for friends. But that's my Instagram if you want to follow along my crazy life. It's not that crazy, just FYI. It's pretty standard for living here in LA. But LA can be crazy at times, for sure. Crazy cool, I would say, honestly. Living in LA, the world comes through here, and there's so many amazing events that happen here, and you can run into so many people you admire and love, and it's cool. But LA definitely has its detractions, too, because cost of living is kind of insane. There's a whole bunch of negatives, I could say, but the positives are I love the area I live in. I love the community of people I live around. I live in the North Redondo, Manhattan Beach area, and it is beautiful down here. Good people, safe neighborhoods, suburbia. The ocean's about a little over a mile away from my place, so I can just jog there if I want, or take a quick Uber or Lyft or scooter or whatever. But I love living near the ocean. I think it's fantastic. It's beautiful, and I love the ocean, and I respect it. I don't really go swimming in it much, but I love being at the beach and just the beauty of nature and the power. Like the ocean always makes me feel so small. It always puts us in our place, I think, in this. Like, what other natural force, aside from like terrible hurricanes or earthquakes and stuff, like what other natural force can you observe like this, though, where it's peaceful and yet you still know that there's an immense power there that can just crush you? It's like having a little taste of God, like just a little inkling of just, like incomprehensible power, incomprehensible strength. The ocean just demands and commands respect. So I love living near the ocean. It's awesome. And I'm very fortunate to be here. I mean, it's Yeah, it wasn't exactly planned. It was just kind of what happened as I migrated to LA. It was a friend who was so generous enough to offer me a bedroom in his 2 bedroom apartment, which I'm at now still, and it just happened to be here. And I've stayed here ever since I moved to LA, and only want to go closer to the water. I really don't want to go back. I don't want to go inland anywhere. I want to move closer to the ocean, not further away. Um, yeah, because LA is a lot of concrete, really. That's all it is. It's just a ton of concrete. And then some really nice houses with some nice yards when you get to multi-million-dollar places like Beverly Hills or Hollywood Hills or places in Burbank, all this. I mean, like the condos, the duplexes and whatever near my place here. I live in an apartment. The houses next to me, the cheap ones, start at 1.2 million. That's like their base slice, but it's nuts. I mean, anywhere else, I left living in a house to live in an apartment here in LA. So you got to take the good with the, it can be a hard pill to swallow. Like, and I can understand why some people don't want to be here. It's like you've got to take some concessions for a while. You got to accept certain things to be in pursuit of the bigger goal. So you got to be willing to deal with some discomforts or imperfections or non-idyllic circumstances, however you want to put it. But you have to be here with a purpose, I think. I moved here to work. I moved here to achieve my dreams of filmmaking and making meaningful, powerful stories that will affect people's lives for the better and echo what really mattered to me, and what affected me positively as a child, and what it really just changed my life in a lot of ways and formed me in a lot of ways was the beauty of the art and the entertainment that I was surrounded by, filtered by my parents when I was very young, and then that kind of cultivated a certain taste that I then had in film. So anyway, so that's, I have a much bigger goal in mind, and it's not even to just to model stuff or work in visual effects. I mean, I've been lucky to have a skill set that I can use, that I can feed myself with and survive with as an artist here in LA, which is amazing. And I worked very hard for that, but it's also thanks to, it's hard work for sure, but your hard work, of course, then has to be presentable, and you have to be good with people. And so it's both my hard work and the generosity and the graciousness of people that I've met along the way, friends and strangers who have been kind to me or trusted me or both, and taken a chance on me and, given me the opportunities. But those were, it's both earned and given. It's like they kind of go hand in hand. It's not like they were handouts, but it's it's a delicate balance and dance of life, I guess, where you try to make the best choices you can, make the best calculated risks you can, and then take a leap of faith here and there, and just hope and pray things turn out good, and you make the best calculated risks you can. That's how I view it. And my motto in life, as I migrated out to LA, has become one of many mottos, is focus on possibilities, not on limitations. And I think that's a very important mindset to have. It's a positive one, but it's also specific. If you focus on limitations, you focus on, well, this could happen and this could go wrong, and well, this is most likely going to go happen, and then you focus on all the negatives, basically, the naysayers, even if it's in your own head of just, well, this won't work out, or I bet this won't happen. If you just focus on that alone, of course, negative things will happen, or unpleasant things will happen in life, for sure. Also, you don't want to be foolish about your choices. You don't want to be delusional in saying, well, I think this will turn out great, when it's low risk, it's low odds, the odds are not in your favor. Of course, you don't want to do that. So it's all about intelligent, calculated risks. But still, you got to focus on, well, what if this does turn out good? What are the possibilities of taking this step, or putting this effort into a piece, or making this initiative to make a short film, and then hoping that people enjoy it or see it, trusting yourself, knowing what you're capable of, knowing your vision, and knowing that it's marketable and appealing and solid and possibly even groundbreaking, or industry defining or changing in some way. Like, if you have those notions, and you not just believe in yourself, because crazy people can believe in themselves, people who don't know what they're doing, but if you can see quantifiable evidence that what you're working on, or what you're aspiring toward can work, and even against all odds, you know, because I think there's a lot of people, there's so many stories out there of people who were told no, or told you'll never make it, or told you're not appealing, or this and that, and yet look at their successes. Like, so many of them have incredible success stories out there. So, I mean, you know, yeah, you know, like, I love that line from Tangled, where, you know, I was like, people always say follow your dream, and I'm like, yeah, you know, as long as your dream is a decent one, and it's maybe not completely self-serving. Because there's that dream where in that sequence in Tangled where they're Rapunzel and Flynn are trying to escape, you know, the pursuing guards or whatever, and then they're this Viking, I guess, he pulls a lever. I think it was a bar. It's like a tap handle or whatever. He pulls it and it opens up in like a secret escape door underneath, behind the bar, like underground. And then he says to the two of them, "Go, follow your dream." And then Flynn replies, "I will." And then the guy says, "I was talking to her. Your dream stinks." That's just like, dude, that's awesome. I'm like, yeah, you know, follow your dream as long as your dream isn't like totally selfish and like hedonistic and just like, well, then it's like, whatever, man. Your dreams, your dream stinks. Your dream sucks, you know. So I would hope your dream is something of a positive impact on the rest of the world in some way, has a positive influence on people. So focus on your possibilities, not on limitations, right? Look at what's possible, not on like, well, all these things could go wrong, because then you'll never leave the house, or you'll never take any important risks, or you never be like, I see all these things align and I think I can do it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to try, you know. Always try, you know, whatever you can without hurting yourself or others, try. And hopefully the worst that happens is you just learn another way not to do certain things, and maybe you open up some other doors in another direction for something else. You never know. But yeah, anyway, man, that's a long ramble. Sorry. ZBrush princesses, fill me in on her animals. Nice. I love animals too. They're great. I think animals are almost more interesting than people. At least sculpting them for me is definitely more attractive than people. Do other people stream? Eagle Top Gamer is asking, do other people stream on Pixelonic channel, or is it mostly you? No, man, it's very little me. I'm like once every 2 weeks for 2 hours. So yeah, there's a lot of other people that stream, a lot of other people, and I would definitely say that there are others who are far more talented and or maybe not talented, because I'm not going to put myself down, but I mean, yeah, there's others that are different and very skilled, very very talented, skilled people, artists out there of all ages, shapes, colors, genders, all that. Yeah, so if you hop on their channel and you want to check out, if you just Google ZBrush streaming, you Google ZBrush live streaming schedule, you'll find a complete list of all the upcoming streamers. And you can, if you just go on their YouTube channel right now and look at their videos, you'll find a whole bunch of like back videos of all the other streamers before me and after, you know, that will come after me. That have been streaming consistently for a while, and there's a lot of them out there who have far bigger viewerships than I do, bigger followings, all that stuff. So, yeah, hopefully I'm not, hopefully I'm not boring you too much there, Eagle Top. But yeah, there's a lot of other people, man. There's a ton of people. So whatever tickles your fancy, I'm sure there's someone that will scratch that itch. Yeah, there's a lot. Still thinking about some of these curls. I'm just looking at that and thinking like, yeah, it just kind of feels like it doesn't flow right yet. But I think it partly has to do with textures and how these textures will flow into that. I think that's part of it, where we're almost going to have to do something like, let's see if my suspicion is right. Like maybe something like, no, it has to streak. No, so it almost have to be one of these. And then I'd have to edit the alpha and yeah, tile it So when you edit an alpha, you can do all kinds of great things. Like in here, you go to up to alpha, and then you got, you want anti-aliasing to get a little cleaner. You can get your strength, your blur. You got your H tile and V tile. That's for horizontal and vertical tiling. You can say surface detail. There's so many things you can do with an alpha here. It's great. I mean, you can even invert it. You can rotate it. All kinds of stuff. So just FYI, you can do all sorts of great things with the alphas. So here I'm just thinking if like you have a more speckled kind of like powdery kind of look to the clouds, and then they would those kind of holes essentially, or gaps in the clouds, would turn into streaks if they were being pulled into like a vortex kind of shape. So that's logically what would happen to a degree. Yeah, we got a 5-minute mark. So yeah, just thinking out loud here, like experimenting. Something like this might help then go into that shape from something like, I gotta turn off that repeat, from something like this. But that's like rudimentary. This is just experiment. Something like that. Yeah. I think that's probably what would work. Whoa, bunch of other questions. Let me back it up here. Heidi, hey, what's up, Heidi? Thanks for the positive feedback. You can watch a stream rerun on YouTube whenever you have time. Yeah, I remember you were working on V-Rex. I thought you were working on a T-Rex, but okay. 2 weeks ago. Yeah, I remember you. Oh, cool. You almost finished it. Nice. I would love to see it. Thanks for the kind words. I appreciate it. Eagle Top, quick question before I leave. What is the nature of existence? What is the nature of existence? That's like the ontological question, man. The question of existence. What is existence? I'm not sure exactly what you mean, though. What was the nature of existence? The nature of existence? Like, why? Why do we exist? Why do things exist? What is the nature of existence? The nature of existence is, if you look at it strictly from a scientific point of view, we could say it's fundamentally to survive, to reproduce, to procreate, strictly from a biological evolutionary standpoint. But if you want to talk about the ontological argument, which is more of like the argument for the existence of a god or the god, that's a whole other philosophical, theological debate or discussion. And that's where, many people have many different answers. Yeah. So I guess you might want to clarify what exactly your question is about the nature of existence. But I would hope fundamentally it revolves around loving others and doing the best you can toward your fellow man. The golden rule, right? Do unto others as you have them do to you. I think if everyone followed that rule, which is like a fundamental biblical principle, right? Like, I have a Christian background, but I'm not going to impose that on anybody. I mean, that's my belief system. But and of course I believe it to be true, but I'm also not delusional enough to think that I can scream anybody or argue anybody into believing what I believe. That's a personal choice and a very deep personal conviction. Should be for everybody, what you believe in as far as the purpose of life, the meaning of life, and how you treat others and what you expect others to perceive of your perspectives and all that, But I think fundamentally that the teachings of Christ are to love others and to treat your neighbor as yourself, love your neighbor as yourself. And, he summated all the 10 Commandments by saying, love the Lord God with all your heart, with all your soul, with all your mind, which is a very deep, very heavy concept. But on the surface, it sounds very simple, and all your strength. And to love your neighbor as yourself. So, those are the fundamentals. It's love. That's really what it comes down to, centered from that kind of perspective. So that's my take, if you really want to know from a spiritual standpoint. Heidi has no questions for me today, only compliments. Thank you. I'll take the compliments. That's always nice to hear. So Kyle's also got a bot in there that's asking for people, trying to figure out what other content people would like to see. So you can take a 2-minute survey, and there's a link there for that as well. Man, so we are at time pretty much. And again, very slow progress on this guy. But now, like I said, I had a recent contract just kind of drop. So my full-time gig is no more full-time. I'll be doing part-time stuff there, but which means I've got more free time to focus on this guy and a whole bunch of other stuff that I have in the works that I've been needing and wanting to take time to work in. So I think I'm going to cruise a little bit. I'm going to coast and try to get this stuff out, you know. But yeah, I think this is about it for tonight. Everybody, just want to say thank you. Well, actually, I will go for another 15 minutes because I did have to restart the stream. I just remembered, sorry. So I owe another 15 for sure to do that 2-hour mark. Yeah, so I had a hiccup with the stream. There was, I think, a change in passwords or whatever for connecting the chat to the streaming system that we use. So that all had to be rectified, and once it was, I was able to start the stream again. So this is where we're at. So sorry. Yes. What else we got here? Game division. Please suggest where should I start ZBrush from. If you want to learn ZBrush, I guess is what you're saying. Start at Z Classroom, man. Z Classroom on ZBrush on pixelogic.com. Pardon me. You want to start there. And also, I would say Gnomon. Yeah, I mean, Gnomon has some really solid classes. Gnomon Workshop, if you're not here in LA. If you're here in LA, try to go to the school. Why not, you know? But you can also, you know, go for cheaper and learn the same information if you can be self-disciplined and follow, you know, basically an online tutorial set of videos. And as encouragement, you know, I majored in biology and pre-med and fine art, double majored in my last year and a half in college was in fine art and visual communication. But that was just kind of for fun because I was like, I'm really getting sick of the hard sciences. I don't know if I want to go to med school. And after working 2 years in an ER in a hospital, I realized that, you know, biology and medicine biology is fascinating and medicine's always fascinating, but working in medicine for me was just, I was done, you know. Or, I mean, even then I still did work in geriatric care for a while, in-home nursing care. Like I did a lot of medical work for a while before I really kind of pieced out because it was a great supplement career. You know what I mean? It was still a great career to pay my way through learning the arts in a certain way. And I was writing books for a while I was doing that medical work, and then, you know, novels and whatever, and then put that on hold. There were things I envisioned as films, really. And anyway, so then I got serious about ZBrush after, you know, doing some teaching inner city kids, disadvantaged youth in the inner city of Lancaster, Pennsylvania. And where I grew up, and I grew up in the suburbs, but I went downtown to help out, and I got kind of discovered, quote unquote. I got found as I was working in this cafe. I loved cafes. I mean, I still do, but I just didn't go out to them as much. But I would always set up shop with my little like MacBook Pro and a portable Cintiq, kind of like the one I'm working on right now, a small one. And I hook it up there, which is kind of a lot of stuff to kind of like, you know, carry in a little suitcase, little briefcase. But I would set it up and just work publicly and just kind of do stuff. Always people would come by and just be like, oh my God, that's so cool. What are you doing? What are you learning? And I would be doing either graphic design work or ZBrush work. And then eventually this nice woman walked by my table and noticed my work and then asked me who I was. And she found it very impressive. And so she said, hey, I work for this company called Chiyoda America, and we do laminate surface design. She's like, it doesn't sound very exciting, but there's international travel, and we send you all these amazing trade shows in Europe, and you get to go train in Belgium for a while. And she's like, you should apply. I was like, cool. I would love to go to Europe. I've never been. This was many years ago, and so I thought, all right, I'll apply. It can't hurt. I beat out 100 other people for the position, and I got it. And that was my first official, like, professional job as an artist. working for that design firm, and it was cool. The international travel was awesome. I like Europe very much. I would love to go back. But yeah. Anyway, man, that's a long tangent. But yeah. So, wow, how did I even get on that? Man, sorry. I just go off on these tangents. And anyway, I'm sure no one wants to hear the whole story. I've told it before, but anyway. Game Division, thanks, man. Yeah, so learn ZBrush. Learn it from. So yeah, the whole point of that. Sorry, man, I go on these bunny trails. The whole point of that was online training. So I taught myself ZBrush through online classes. So it wasn't just myself, but I mean, I was definitely learning from professionals, but it was me taking courses on my own time with my own money. And after Chewed America, that Japanese company where I was doing laminate surface design, it got incredibly boring after about less than a year. About 8 months into it, I was like, I can't keep doing this because I'm just working on one giant texture of wood or stone, and it's just killing me. So I was like, I have to get back to my love of like creature design and storyboarding and digital painting and figure out what I really like, focus on where I really want to put my skill set at. And that's when I learned more about ZBrush from, I think it was Imagine FX and then like 3D World magazine and 3D Artist magazine. And I saw what they were doing with that, and I thought, wow, that I could really wrap my brain around that. Maya is weird. I mean, I still don't like Maya that much, but we all have to work in it because it's just part of the industry. But it's not my ideal. I kind of like Modo better and other programs. But anyway, so I learned ZBrush through online courses. And after the end of my second course, which was at that time with ZBrush workshops, I'd become good enough friends with one of the co-instructors, essentially, that he pushed my name toward the gentleman who owned the company. And from there, I got a job, assisting with their classes and learning from being able to digitally sit next to many masters of ZBrush as they were teaching their courses. So that helped me really up my game fast, and I started becoming more and more focused on marrying what I'm being paid to do as my job on my day job with also teaching myself what I want to do as my day job, essentially. So I was getting paid to learn what I wanted to get paid to do. So it was kind of a really kind of lucky, brilliant kind of, convergence of opportunities and skill sets. And that's where I learned, that's where I started to learn ZBrush on my own, essentially just remotely in my bedroom and my computer, and just being determined after leaving that job with Chewed America and just saying, like, I'm going to put my savings to some real use and get hardcore, get serious about this, and just be militant. And so I was doing piece after piece, practicing, and I wound up. I remember I was spending so much time just sitting at my computer, learning ZBrush and practicing and getting things down, that I watched all 15 seasons. I mean, watched meaning here was my TV, and I was like looking at my computer. So he listened to mostly, but I think I just got on this kick of I watched all 15 seasons of South Park over the course of learning and really mastering ZBrush, or at least getting to the first level of mastering it, I guess you could say. And that's where I really kind of like just dove in. And it was after that eventually I got a job doing ZBrush work at a big theater called Sight and Sound Theaters, which oddly, funny enough, did biblical production. So really giant scaled statues and set pieces and props, and they had everything there. It was like legacy effects mixed with a visual effects house, kind of. It was all mashed together. So we had the workshop there, we had the milling machines, we had the 3D printers, and I got to learn how to use all the 3D printers, and that's kind of my first introduction to 3D printers, and that's how I first bought my first one after that. And they had industrial size printers, and I had like a little desktop, my MakerBot. It was the first one I got. But again, it was all about just investing in yourself, pouring your money back into your craft, and being intelligent about making, again, like calculated risks and choices. And from there, I springboarded to LA eventually. I used that time and money of that job to network out here for big trade shows and to meet and shake the right hands and, kiss the right babies, shake hands, kiss babies, that whole thing. So, so, I mean, that's, if you want to start with ZBrush, man, I'd say like Gnomon online, and then, and ZBrush, Z Classroom's free. So for anyone who wants to learn ZBrush, I mean, those are the great resources to start with. And just, YouTube tutorials, magazines, 3D Artist, 3D World magazines. Those are great. Go to Barnes and Noble. You can pick them up there, or you can order a bunch of back issues on eBay, I'm sure. But it's a matter of finding what resources are out there, and then finding the one that works for you, and then just getting serious about it. Like devoting serious time. Take it like you would a job or a college class. Just treat it the same way. Like, you have to be there. You have to do this work. You have to be there from X amount of time to whatever, and really be productive and really work hard and feed yourself, carrot yourself. Carrot and stick. Kind of basically almost trick yourself if it's hard to really be devoted or really be disciplined. Come up with a piece, an idea of an work of art that really excites you and that you'd love to see materialize, on screen eventually. And so then use that as a goal of learning new software or learning new techniques in order to achieve it. So once you have it as a vision in your head, figure out how to make it look real or even become real if you can, 3D print it. And that, I think, will help keep you, hungry and working hard. So that's the best advice I can give for learning ZBrush. Warner C3 says ZBrush is the most hardcore stuff to learn. I would differ, man. I would say that Maya, it probably can be more hardcore in some areas, but it's just that it's a bunch of different systems and they're all piled together and it feels overwhelming. But I know when you focus, like as I've been doing this, as you focus on one system after another in Maya, another software, you break it down into like bite-sized chunks, and then it's like learning to add. If you look at calculus, or advanced algebra, you're as a child, you're just going to be like, oh, like you just it'll just it'll crush you. You'll just be like overwhelmed. But if you look at it like you learn how to add, and you learn how to subtract, and you learn how to multiply and divide, and you start learning those steps, and you learn how to piece them together. It's like learning to play an instrument. You learn what keys are what first on the piano. You learn middle C, and then you go up this and down the scales. You learn your scales, you learn your notes, you learn how to read music. It's all this, it's like anything, systems, layers. You start with the fundamentals, and then you just work your way up one after another, and suddenly this incredibly complex thing that looks overwhelming from the outside, but in reality it was just bite-sized pieces. You just nibble away at that. Take one little scoop of ice cream, and then another, and before you know it, the whole pint is gone, and you're like, why am I so fat? So that's the same thing, man. It's like anything in life. I think if you look at it as a whole, you're like, oh my god, I can't eat that. But you just take a little nibble, and then another little nibble, and before you know it, you've got diabetes. You're gonna get fat. Just take it one step at a time. Sorry, that's dark humor. Anyway, any other questions? We're wrapping up here in a couple minutes, like 3 or 4 more minutes, and then I'm bouncing. I'm gonna take my dog for a walk. Take my corgi out. Because he's like, I've got to go. I've eaten all the foods. Now the food's got to come out. Sorry, I've got like a 12-year-old sense of humor sometimes. Burps and farts are funny. What can I say? Warner C3, yeah, I get you, man. Started 2D and believe it helps save lots of time learning. Yeah, totally, man. I'm the same way. I started to learn how to draw first when I was a very young child. I saw my dad was a draftsman before he became an electrical engineer. So he was working in architecture and design, and his drawings and his lines were just so clean and so straight and so beautiful. And he just was able to draw so well. And I was always enamored with that as a child. So my dad and I really bonded over, or partly, many things, but learning him teaching me how to draw as a very young child, as like a single digit aged kid, that really bonded us, and that was our time together rather than like throwing ball, playing sports. My dad was never really big into sports, and not to say that we didn't have anything against athletics. I would love to play tag with my friends, and I played pickup games of basketball and taekwondo and college and all that stuff, but our time spent really was with a lot of the arts involving teach me how to draw, and him exposing me to all these great movies, probably too early for some of them, but I still love them all. Spielberg movies were such a staple in our house, and George Lucas movies, Indiana Jones, or like Empire of the Sun, or just so many great arts. So, but that all just, 2D drawing was the foundation of all of this for me, and that's really what kind of got me running too. And I think if your fundamentals are really strong, if you know anatomy, and I remember taking drawing 2 in the university I went to in Pennsylvania, and they were the first. I was the first student they ever just let enter drawing 2. Like I just showed that I was capable of drawing at that level, and they let me in. I didn't have to take drawing 1 there, which was awesome. But that showed that my passion for drawing was there, and understanding how to really replicate form. Understanding 3-dimensional form starts with knowing how to draw 3-dimensional form on a 2D level. Those fundamental traditional art skills are critical to being a good sculptor, and I don't think that they're 100% necessary, because I'm sure there are people who are great sculptors now who never could draw very well, but I would say the odds are more artists who are great sculptors can draw very well than not. And I think that's just fundamental to understanding form and grasping 3 dimensions, and that will make you a better sculptor for sure. So yeah, I started in 2D, man. I started traditional pencil and paper and life drawing, lots of human figures, nudes, clothed, lots of still life, self-portraits, look in the mirror, drawing yourself and how terrible it looks the first time you do it or the second time you do it. And then eventually that led to Photoshop and tons of photo manipulation and graphic design. Excuse me. And then moving on from there into eventually ZBrush. And then ZBrush led, for me, ZBrush was my 3D gateway drug, I would say. And that led into Maya and Modo and all these other pieces of software. And I'm still learning a bunch of new stuff now too. So I'm learning Unreal. Unreal is where it's at, man. I think the future of rendering and the future of a lot of 3D is going to be in Unreal. Future filmmaking, I think, is going to be Unreal in a lot of ways. So, I mean, it already is here. I mean, look at Favreau's work on Mandalorian. It's awesome. Game division. I told my professor that if you want to make anything in ZBrush, the priority is to make low poly in Maya. But my question is it necessary to go to Maya first? No, you don't have to go into Maya first. Not at all. You can box model here in ZBrush, man. Let me just save this quick. Boop. You can box model in ZBrush, and it can be awesome. Start with the polysphere, and let's zoom in on that guy. I'll do this really quick, and then I'll bounce. I'll show you box modeling here, and it's great. You got the Z modeler. Yeah, I mean, there's things that you can or can't do in Maya that are good, and it's like, I'm not to tell you not to dissuade you from Maya, but if you don't want to be in Maya to box model, you don't have to be in Maya. If you want to edit topology, you can edit here in ZBrush, or you can edit in Maya. Certain things are faster in Maya, perhaps, but there's a lot of things now that you can do with ZBrush. This is the Z modeler tool brush, by the way, or Z modeler brush. So you go in here, and boop, there it is, right down there. Everything in that brush palette is alphabetic. So I turned on symmetry, so we can do things fast here. So hold space bar, you get this whole big menu. It's kind of like Maya, you have a menu with different options. So I'll say single poly, it's a target, and I want to extrude. QMesh is really fast too, but there's like a bunch of random stuff that can happen there too. Not random, but things that I'm not as familiar with. But let's say you want to extrude, and then we want to make these all the same poly group, and then make our target the poly group island, and then we want to extrude, and then extrude again. What else here? Let's do that down here. Whoop. And what else? I don't know. Just single poly. Oh, nope. All right. So now here's this box. Like, what could this be used for? Well, I don't know. Dog, cat, whatever. Subdivide, subdivide, subdivide. All right. So this is a crude level of like back in the day kind of box modeling that, it seems kind of pointless to do today. I mean, unless you just really want crazy amount of control over your topology and you really just want to have, you know, I mean, this isn't super specific, but you know what I mean. If you just want to have like traditional, you know, control over things. Whoa. So, oh yeah, sorry, stuff switched around from working on Mufasa. So let's just make a kitty cat. This is a terrible kitty cat because I'm just doing it quick and dirty, but you know what I mean. You know what I'm trying to show you. So, kitty, because the internet was made for cats. Yeah, what am I doing? But I mean, like right here, we're already getting form. We're getting somewhat clean topo. Let's auto group that. You know, I mean, it's very clean topo, really. So, this is a very deformed looking cat. This poor thing is a very special kitty. We can just throw him some eyeballs quick just to really... where is the insert mesh? All right. Oh yeah, dirt. Come on, there we go. All right. This is a terrible looking cat. I know. I mean, this is just such a quick and dirty form. But anyway, you get the idea. So this is just one of many ways that you can quickly box model in ZBrush and say, screw you, Maya. I'm not dating you anymore. I found a bigger, better deal. And its name is ZBrush. I don't know, man. I'm being ridiculous. So here you go. A very malformed kitty, base form of a kitty, box modeled in ZBrush. Never left it. So, I mean, you can do the same, basic fundamental procedure for a lot of things in ZBrush, So you don't have to go into Maya, but, it's all about what tool you need it for. What's your purpose with all this? It's using the right tool for the right job is all what it comes down to. It depends. If you're working in production, yeah, you might want to start in Maya. You don't have to. I mean, I've started a lot of production models in ZBrush, and then I hand them off to guys and riggers later on. You just got to make sure your topology is good. You got to know how to make clean topology. So there you go, game division. Hope that answers your question. We got a few other things here. What else do we got here? Sorry for joining late. No worries. Sorry that I'll be leaving here in a minute. Game division, you're welcome, man. Screw Maya. Yeah. I've got a new girlfriend or boyfriend. All right. I've got a mistress, and their name is ZBrush. All right, guys. That's it for tonight. I'm tired. I stayed up super late finishing up another project for this former client, and I'm pretty beat. So I'm going to walk my pup, eat something, and pass out. But you guys all take care. I'm probably going to stream maybe more frequently for the time being since I'm between gigs. So maybe next Wednesday, I'll see if Kyle can squeeze me in, or another time. But keep a lookout. Again, feel free to follow me on the social medias, such as my Instagram, which I'll type up for you lovely people one more time. My Twitter, which is Lion Arts. And Facebook, if you want, although I'm not really that active. I mean, I post memes on there mostly. I just joke around now because Facebook's evil. But they're stealing people's data. I think that's me, though, if I'm not mistaken. So, yeah. Feel free to keep in touch. Say hi. Whatevs. But, yeah, it's been real. I hope you guys learned something. I hope this was enjoyable. And I know progress on this thing has been slow for those who have been along for the journey, but I hope you guys enjoy watching the progress, and I think it will be worth it at the end. It's just, it's ambitious, and I want it to be great, so I guess I'm just taking my time with it, because I only work 2 hours every 2 weeks on this thing, so that's why it's pretty slow right now. But I'll try to put in more time, I swear. All right, guys, take care. Thanks a lot, and have a great night, and I will see you guys again soon. Bye.